passionate leaders, Hispanic Leaders Network, who are deeply vested in supporting current and future leaders in the greater Waco community. Our vision is to develop and empower current and future leaders to make a difference in the community, and our mission is to provide personal, cultural, and professional opportunities to inspire Hispanic leaders to serve and make a positive impact. We have a very important topic on the agenda today as part of our presentation about demystifying the mental health stigma with Dr. Eliana Newman. We will introduce Dr. Newman here in a few moments, but first I would like to welcome Pastor Derek Watley from Mighty Wind Worship Center to lead us in the pledge and give us the invocation.
As you can tell, I'm not Hispanic, but that is one of the things that I love about this organization is that you guys are very much focused on creating a diverse group of people to come, sit down, learn, and have conversations that everybody's not necessarily willing to have. And so we appreciate the work that you guys are doing and looking forward to the things that you guys are going to continue to do in the future, okay? First thing, today is Veterans Day. Do we have any veterans in the house today? If you would, please stand. Please stand. Thank you so much for your service, and we truly appreciate everything that you do. We could never repay you, but we want to honor you today. So if you guys would, I am going to lead us in the pledge. And then after we do the pledge, then I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to turn it back over, okay? So if you would all please stand as we say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Let everyone bow your heads. You can be seated. You can be seated. Father, we thank you this day. We thank you because you are an amazing God, and you are the source of everything for us, Lord. You are our source of strength, source of peace, our source of knowledge, our source of love. You are the source of all things. And I thank you for this organization, and I thank you for their heart to create diversity and to create a culture of having those hard and difficult conversations that are going to allow us to be a nation that is indivisible, and that's going to allow us to be a nation that truly seeks justice for all. So I thank you this day, and I trust you because you love us all, you created us all, and you have so many good things in store for each and every one of us. And so today, we honor you, we bless you, and we ask that you would bless this food and bless all the ones that were here to prepare it. And I thank you for this opportunity to learn and grow with others that are seeking love and unity within our nation. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now I would like to take an opportunity to recognize any distinguished guests and elected officials who are joining us today. I know we have Dr. Peaches Henry of the Waco NAACP here. Without great partners and sponsors, it would not be possible for the Hispanic Leaders Network to host events such as the one today. We are thankful to Baylor Scott & White for sponsoring today's luncheon. Let's give them a hand. Toward the end of the program, we will have a word from Charles Williams, CEO of Baylor Scott & White Medical Center. But now I would like to invite our HLN board member, Annalie Luper, to introduce our speaker for today.
Hi, I'm Annalie Luper. I'm an immigration attorney with American Gateways and also honored to be a board member of HLN. And I have the great pleasure of introducing my friend, Dr. Ileana Newman, and she is also who I aspire to be one day. She's the most amazing woman you've probably ever met or will meet. Now I will read the remarks I'm supposed to read. Okay. Dr. Ileana Newman was born in McAllen, Texas, to the daughter of immigrants. She attended Duke University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts as well as a master's degree in health sciences. She then went on to complete a specialty training in family medicine at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and did an extra year of fellowship in obstetrics. In 2016, she joined the faculty of Waco Family Medicine residency program, where she continues to practice full scope medicine along with training physicians in family medicine. In the residency program, she was involved in creating and co-directing the Spanish track and the high obstetrics track, and directs the residency simulation lab at McLennan Community College. She is also a member of the internal race equity team. She is active in the community, extremely active, so listen out to all the things she's involved in. She's a member of HLN's Board of Directors and co-chair of the HLN's Cultural and Community Engagement Committee. And other community involvement includes the board of the Waco McLennan United Way, trustee of Transformation Waco School Board, board of Greater Waco Legal Services, board of Planned Parenthood of Greater Texas, board of Waco Immigrants Alliance, member of the Waco Strategic Communications Work Group, NAACP Health Committee co-chair, and member of the steering committee for Waco's Healthy Women and Children's Coalition. So help me welcome Dr. Ileana Newman. And she has the cutest pants on ever.
Are you going to be my clicker? Are you gonna click? First of all, thank you all so much for being here. This is such an important conversation, and my goal today is to speak less and just kind of set up a framework. There are some amazing people in this community who are doing this work every day, and I want to give them an opportunity to share with you so that we can start building that support network and that safety net for the people that we love that need us so much right now. So just to start off with, who are we? Who are Latinos? The U.S. Hispanic population has reached 62.5 million in 2021. So we are a big group and growing. But we're very diverse, and so it's unfortunate when we get pegged into being a certain type, because I think that isn't beneficial in really trying to solve problems. We come from different regions of the world, different countries, including Cuba, Mexico, Guatemala, South America. We also have different educational and social groups, so depending on how long you've been in school, that can affect how you interact with the healthcare system, including the mental health system, and that's an important thing to keep in mind as we're trying to solve problems. We're also at different stages of migration. There are Latinos here in the United States that have been here before it was the United States, that have been here for generations. We also have people that have just arrived, and everything else in between. This different level of migration also means a different level of acculturation, which means when you take on the larger culture, some of that has some positive effects in terms of people who are more acculturated, sometimes access mental health resources better, feel a little bit, are able to overcome some of the taboos in our culture regarding mental health. But that also means sometimes that we're more isolated, that we've lost some of the connection with our extended family groups, that we feel discrimination more. And so all those are things that come into play. However different we are, we also share lots of things in common, including how we think about mental health and the things that help us get through it. Next. So let's just start off with some clear definitions so that there isn't any confusion about what we're talking about. So what we're talking about is depression, anxiety, substance abuse, and other psychiatric disorders. Depression, many of us have struggled with some form of this or another at some point. It includes persistent sadness and loss of interest in things. You can see it in other ways, such as easily getting frustrated when you usually wouldn't, crying easily, not being able to focus, not enjoying the things that you usually would have enjoyed. All these are, it's a spectrum, and all of these are, people can feel these things in different ways and can express it in different ways. Some people are very good at covering it up and not showing it, and other people wear their feelings on their sleeves. Anxiety is in the same kind of spectrum where you have excessive fear, excessive worry, and sometimes it can be paralyzing and doesn't allow you to do your work or do other things that are important or interesting to you, going to your school, your kid's school, or picking up a hobby that you used to enjoy. Substance abuse kind of interacts with that in different ways in terms of sometimes people use it as self-treatment. And so if you're suffering with depression and anxiety, people sometimes use alcohol to try to go to sleep or use alcohol to try to calm down some of their nerves. And then at other times, the use of substances in and of themselves increase the cycle of depression and anxiety. So they really play in very much one with the other, and it's important to pay attention to the full picture, how people are interacting with substances, alcohol, other drugs, and how that's affecting their mental health. What are the impacts of not addressing mental health? The World Health Organization noted that depression is one of the main causes of disability worldwide. That's a huge statement. There's so many issues in the world. There's heart disease and diabetes and everything else, but the World Health Organization feels that depression is one of the main causes of disability. And that's not only in disability in the way that we can enjoy our lives and be productive, but it actually also increases the risk of physical health. We aren't separate beings. It's not our mind and our body. We're one being together, and what's going on in our minds affects our physical health, literally. And that also, some people eat, some people can't sleep, and all those things we know have a definite impact on your physical health. And when your physical health is affected, that increases costs for the community, and it shortens people's lives. And human beings are our biggest resource, and so it's important for us to pay attention to the things that are shortening the quality and quantity of people's lives. So if this is such an important issue, why are people not getting help? That's for a multitude of reasons. And so what are some of the barriers? We know that Latinos have similar vulnerabilities to mental illness that the rest of the community has, but we have more barriers, both internal and external. What are some of these barriers? So we talk about culture. What role does culture play in this? Traditionally, in Hispanic Latino culture, we have faced taboos and stigma in discussing mental health. There's a saying, la ropa se lava en la casa. You wash your clothes at home. There's a similar saying in English about not airing your dirty laundry, but we really take it to heart. We tend to be a very private people, and especially if you're an immigrant in a country, being able to talk about this to people that are different than you, and when you're trying to assimilate, can be a huge barrier. And sometimes when you're talking about it at home, your family members can say, "Ay, no, estás loca," or and there can be a real negative response in our families when we talk about mental health. There's a perception that it's inappropriate, embarrassing, or shameful to talk about it, that somehow there's a deficit in you or you haven't done something right if you're having mental health issues. What other things culturally play into depression and anxiety? There's a thing that in the literature that talks about familismo, which is a way of talking about how very central to us our families are, and our extended families, and what an important role that plays in how we interact with the world. In a lot of ways, that's one of our strengths. That's one of the things that keeps us resilient. It's our love of family, our desire to have a better future for our children, that encourages us to sacrifice and motivates us to do better, to travel to a different country, to do all sorts of work, to value education, because we want our families to do better. So in a lot of ways, it's one of our strengths. But strengths can be flipped on their head and can become weaknesses. And so if you're in a family where we don't want to talk about mental health, then because your family is everything to you, then talking about mental health is hard because you don't want to be ostracized from them. You don't want to be the one left out. And your response from your family about mental health being a negative is something that keeps you then from talking about it. Religion is another thing that's very central and important to our culture. And in, again, so many ways has been a source of strength for us. both culturally, educationally. In so many ways it has gotten us through tough times. But the flip side of it is that sometimes, depending on your church, there may be some negative connotations to mental health, like maybe this is a punishment from God because maybe you're sinning, or maybe, there's no reason for you to get help or to use medications because we just need to pray and you just need to work harder at getting closer to God. And so something that could be a positive can sometimes be, for us, turned into a weakness. And we also still lean very heavily on traditional healers, traditional medicines, which again have some positive things. A lot of traditional medicine is based on food. We know food is health. We know that there's definitely an important interaction with food and health. But when we take it to the point where we're just counting on herbs and we don't need any of that fake medicine or those things that are just going to poison your body, then we're letting those beliefs that could be helpful, again, get in the way of the help that we could get. We know that medications are safe. The ones we have now are safe and effective and can really change long-term outcomes for people suffering from depression and anxiety. What are some of the external barriers? The external barriers include the fact that we know for a long time, and this isn't new, there has been a national shortage of mental health professionals. There was a shortage before the pandemic, and after the pandemic, it has come to the point of crisis. We have had a huge spike in need for mental health services. One of the latest things that I saw in the literature was we've had as much as 6% increase in depression and anxiety, 6 times as much as before. But we have not had a 6-time increase in our mental health providers. People have suffered isolation, kids have been out of school, they've lost family members, they've lost their caregivers, people have lost jobs, and we have not had the resources to address those losses. People have there's huge waiting lists in general for mental health providers of any type. It doesn't help that only 7% of psychologists in the US are Hispanic. Only 7%, when we're about 20% of the population and growing, but only 7% of providers are Hispanic. And one may say, does it really matter, their ethnicity? If somebody is well trained, they can do a good job. You can go to an Anglo or Asian or whoever, as long as they know how to do their job. And to a certain extent, that's true, and we just need more mental health care providers, bottom line. But we also know that people respond better, and there's good evidence in the literature that people respond better when they are with somebody who they resonate with culturally and linguistically. So if you're going to have mental health providers that are not Latinos, we need to make sure that they're well trained in terms of understanding the variations in the way that we culturally approach mental health, that they have the interpreters available that are trained to interpret appropriately. But we know that we could also do better if we have more people, if we continue to build that pipeline so that more people in our community become mental health providers and build those relationships of trust where we can have a much more impactful response in our patients when we take care of them. There's also issues of money. We do tend to have higher issues of poverty, higher issues of not having insurance, and there are less mental health providers in areas where we live. So I was looking through all the resources as I was preparing for this talk, and there's a couple sites where you can put in what you need and they'll find you therapists. And there are some Latino therapists in San Antonio, Austin, and El Paso. But there was not very many that come up in those websites that people Google here in this area. So, and in a lot of the neighborhoods where our patients most need us. Immigration status is always a barrier. Even if you came here legally, a lot of people are in the process of normalizing their papers. And there has been a lot of fear of if you if you have any mental or physical impairments, that's somehow going to interfere with your ability to finalize and people spend years trying to normalize their legal status. And so whether you have legal status or don't have legal status, if you're here, even if you're here legally, a lot of times that can still be a barrier. And like we said, language and culture, the misunderstanding of the way that a lot of patients will report, tengo nervios, which is I have nerves. people will think that that's something neurological when that's the way that we express anxiety or depression. People will have sometimes translators, but being able to use the correct words, and even if you're a translator, doesn't mean you understand all the right words in Spanish to express what people are feeling. And so getting well-trained interpreters is also important. What are other things that get in our way? Just our perceptions. A fear of being ostracized, like I said, from your family, from your support network. Fear of discrimination at work or with your cohort, whether that if you're in school or at your job, if they find out that you are using medication or seeing a therapist. And also perceptions of other people to our symptoms. And so there was a study that showed that in a large number of Black and brown children who present with symptoms of depression and anxiety, they are diagnosed as having conduct disorder instead of depression, while Caucasian children get diagnosed with exactly the same symptoms, get diagnosed with depression. And so then they get put on this pipeline where they have behavior issues and they get treated in a completely separate way that doesn't help them. And even when we try to get help for them, mental health resources are hard to get for adults, even harder to get for children. And in postpartum women, so we know we have a crisis in maternal health in Black and brown populations. And one of the reports recently was that Black and brown women tend to report depression, postpartum depression, less because they fear involvement by Child Protective Services. And so the fact that whatever our emotions are often get criminalized or seen as aggressive or bad, also are other perceptions that get in our way. So what's the impact of this? The impact is that both the internal and external barriers put our community at a higher risk of more severe and persistent forms of mental health disease. If it's not treated, it gets worse. It impacts our physical health. And one of the scariest things to me is that it is generational. So if you are a parent with mental health disease that is not treated, it is going to impact your children, and it is going to impact their children. And so this isn't just your problem, it's the problem of our community going forward. And that's so important. And a lot of us that are struggling from depression and anxiety, it happened to our mothers, but we didn't talk about it, right? And so it's hard for us to talk about it because she was strong, she was machona, and she didn't need to talk about it, so why should I? So that intersection between parents and children and the future generations is something that we can't lose sight of. So what can we do? We need to find some solutions. I think to begin with, we need to start the conversation. And that's why I'm so glad that you all are here today. And that's what I'm hoping that this is the start of a conversation about what are the things that we are doing in our community, because I know we are doing things. And how are we going to continue to take away the stigma, recognize that mental health is health, and we need to take care of it the same way that we encourage people to take care of their diabetes and their blood pressure and their cancer. Mental health is health. We need to take care of it. Be an advocate for yourself and your loved ones. So if you go to a provider, a lot of my patients will sometimes say, okay, I went to a therapist, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel they were listening to me, so I don't think therapy works for me, and so I'm just moving on. I'm just going to take care of it myself. No, if that wasn't the right therapist for you, find another therapist. If you feel they aren't in addressing you culturally, there are ways to look up, has this person gotten extra training in cultural sensitivity, and if you're needing an interpreter, are they using an interpreter appropriately? Can we schedule longer visits because we need to use an interpreter, or more frequent visits? So be an advocate for you and for your loved ones. We need to increase our workforce. Our kids are looking for something to do, and one of the things that we know that gets kids through their tough times is having a goal. So if we say your community needs you, mental health is a great profession, let's find mentors, let's find ways for you to know that this is something, a way that you can really contribute, and let's find models where they can find balance between being able to do a profession that they love and take care of their families. Increased coverage. We know insurance is an issue. There were laws that were passed that say insurance has to cover mental health. They have not complied with that. We need to continue to push policymakers to understand mental health is health, and it needs to be covered. I have such a struggle in my own practice of being able to take care of diabetes and all the other things that I take care of, because people are so depressed, and if they're so depressed, they're not going to take care of their physical health. we have to take care of the whole person. Increase research. We don't have enough research on the different ways that our culture, both in Black and brown communities, impacts our mental health and what are the best and most effective ways to solve the issues. We need to push people to invest in research in how to address this problem. It's huge and it impacts not only our community, but everybody we touch. We are very productive. We start businesses. We're in all the professions. Our children are getting ready to take over. We need to make sure that we are getting the research and the resources to make sure that we solve this problem for everybody. And finally, pool our resources. We know, again, churches are such a valuable part of the way that our community finds help. And so let's support churches in being able to address these issues when people bring them up. A lot of my patients say, I went to talk to my pastor, I went to talk to somebody in my church. So let's give them the resources so they can answer these questions and get them the help that they need. Schools as well. Schools are such an important interaction with our families and the public, and so giving them the resources and the knowledge to be able to take care of things. And social groups like this, anytime there's a chance for us to bring it up and say, how's everybody's mental health? What are we doing now? How are we moving the needle forward? I think is important. Next. One of the things that I like the most is this National Alliance on Mental Health, NAMI, and they have these great videos, Compartiendo Esperanza. They have 3 of them right now that I looked at. I was going to show them, but I think I'm going to cut the time short because I want to have time to hear from you all. But please go in and look at them. They're about 10 to 15 minutes. And one of them is like leaders in the community and talking about the importance of mental health and how we're going to address it. Another one is talking to our teenagers. Our young people are struggling terribly with mental health right now. And the other one is about, I think, older people, or no, talking about it in your family, how to have that family conversation. But they're really useful, and they're good, they're easy ways to start the conversation in your own little group that you may want to. And finally, the biggest resource that we have is you. Each and every one of you sitting where you are. I know someone who's struggling with this, is struggling with this yourself, or have the power to touch somebody to make this better. And that's gonna start by us talking about it, normalizing it, and making sure that we find the ways to collaborate and get our community the help that they need. So on that note, I would like a couple of people that I know are here to stand up and share a little bit about what they're doing. And so, Lisa, ¿puedes? You can, yeah, let's do it there. So again, this is just part of starting this conversation, knowing that we're all here in the audience helping each other out.
Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Brisa Coronado Torres. I am currently a school counselor at Kendrick Elementary, and I'm also a licensed professional counselor providing counseling here in Waco. And I feel like I've walked along with Dr. Newman. She's been a model, right? But in our schools, I have seen I started as a teacher, and it was probably the need that I saw with my Spanish-speaking students not receiving mental health services that pushed me to proceed and get a master's degree in mental health. And the lack of resource, parents are wanting to know ways to help their students, and they just don't have the tools, the resources. So one of the things that I always try to encourage parents is that we are out here. Sometimes they just don't know that we are here. I try to be as open as possible with them because I myself, I am an immigrant. I came to the U.S. here, so I know how hard it is to be able to adapt to this country and all this acculturation and barriers that you face as you're going through this to this new country, and not only the school, but also these other factors that you're dealing with that a lot of times we don't talk about for fear, and things that we want to keep, we keep suppressing, but then those things keep coming up along the way. So yes, I am a school counselor. I'm so happy to be at Kendrick Elementary, and as I mentioned too, I provide mental health services outside. So please, if you know anyone, please refer them out because we are out here. Thank
Gracias, Lisa. We so appreciate you. Talking about schools, we have our CEO from Transformation Waco, and they are really breaking down some barriers and finding new ways of reaching our children. So I'd love for Dr. McDermott to tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Thank you. Transformation Waco is the in-district charter partnership operating 5 chronically low-performing Waco ISD schools. Some of the significant things that we have focused on within our network is family resources. And so every one of our campuses has a family support specialist. It's these people right over here. And their job all day, every day is connecting resources with our families and helping them deal with whatever it is that they need to be working on. The other thing that we invested in a few years back was clinical supervision for our social workers to create a pipeline for licensed clinical social workers. And so once we took a team of social workers through that process to become clinical social workers, then we were able to hire them as clinical social workers, and they have full loads. They're also here today, and I think our message is that we're on the right track, but we need to be continuously filling that need, because just like Dr. Newman said, the need is much higher than the services available to our kids. So we're addressing it by creating our own. I think those are some of our biggest pieces of work in that work.
Thank you so much, Dr. McDermott. And I just want to highlight a little bit more about actually the work she's doing, which is really impressive in terms of, I think all of us think when we need a mental health provider that we need somebody like a psychiatrist or psychologist, but actually evidence says that some of the people that address mental health the best are licensed clinical social workers. But the issue with licensed clinical social workers is that it takes a lot of training and time, and our community is not investing in their training, and so they have to do an extra internship to become the licensed clinical social worker, and you have 3 right now.
300 hours.
300 extra hours, and so it's a big investment, but again, we need to recognize that this is an investment worth making. Okay, while I'm here, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do as to support families?
Well, so I am at Carver and Indian Spring Middle School, and so my name's Travis Cheatham. We actually split our roles this past year. So me and Shirley Langston are the family support specialists for this campus. And this year, I'm actually solely focused on the attendance side of things, and she's more focused on family engagement. But I think one of the big things with our role is it is serving the family almost even more than the student a lot of the time, and dealing, how can we assist family dynamics and helping families feel like they have someone in their corner. And so they feel like there's someone that's trying to advocate for them and what their needs are and trying to fit that in with other things. And that we aren't, especially me for attendance, I'm the one who has to do court filings, all that. And so it's easy to become a negative role, but letting them know, we're here to help you however we possibly can. You just got to communicate that with us. And so trying to develop and strengthen those relationships.
And I think that's the important thing again, is relationships is part of the way that we solve these issues. Attendance is huge. Getting kids in seats is how they're going to learn and do better. And a lot of times mental health issues are the reason that they don't. So one of the last school meetings I went to, I heard some of the licensed clinical social workers were actually going out there and getting the kids out because they were so depressed. It was even hard to get out of their house. So schools are important, and we talked a little bit more about how immigration affects this so much. So I was hoping that Aranza would say a couple words about her experience with immigrants and tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, good morning. My name is Aranza Torres, and I am a licensed master of social work, working on my clinical license at the Heart of Texas Counseling Center. We're located on Milan 28th, so I exclusively serve adult clients. I'm a bilingual therapist, so about half of my caseload is Spanish-speaking clients. And I would say, like 98% of my Spanish-speaking clients are immigrants. and so did not originate from the US. My master's program has a specialization in migration and refugee services, and so I did extensive work in that. And migrating to a different country is a trauma in and of itself, and sometimes I don't think that we recognize this. We don't recognize how traumatic it can be to leave everything that we know, our culture, our family, our language, our comforts, the food that we eat, etc., and completely transplant into something else that's completely new, and how difficult that process is and how much responsibility is placed, especially on parents. So I work exclusively with adults, so I have the honor and privilege of hearing how resilient these people are. It is absolutely incredible. They're some of the most incredible, strongest people that I know. And I'm so proud of them for just stepping into the space that I can create for them. But over and over again, I'm recognizing how hard it is for them just to find me, just to find people like myself and Brisa, who are Spanish-speaking counselors. And there is a wait list. Like, there aren't very many of us. I mean, we're here, but there aren't very many of us. And so Brisa and I have been doing some work with the Bienestar Latino Mental Health Coalition, which is a coalition that was started several years ago. And so a lot of the work that we're doing now is focused on bilingual mental health capacity building. So we get together at least once a month to talk about how we're supporting one another, how we can encourage one another to continue into getting our license, or maybe case staffings with a particular client who we might be having some difficulty connecting resources with. So that's been a really incredible opportunity. I invite you guys to join our Facebook. We share a lot about the resources happening and a lot of the things that are going on. For example, Methodist Children's Home Family Outreach is going to be piloting a free family therapy program, which is phenomenal. I think they have a couple of slots open, so if you know of a family who might need their services, please contact them. They're also doing a free Spanish language family support group once a month, which is amazing. So I have some flyers for that if anyone would like that information. But there is a lot of really good work being done in the community. Sometimes it just kind of gets lost. And so this is a good opportunity to do that.
And another therapist we have in the area, Sol. Cuéntanos algo bueno.
Hello everyone. My journey has been a little different. I came to the US when I was 27, and my degree is in psychology. My license is in the 32 states of Mexico. But I came here to work with the school district, specifically with Black and brown children, to start a manual together for the behavior interventions. However, the findings of that research were that it was not necessarily the kids, but also the teachers that were the same ones that were reporting the students, and the same type of behavior, like how was being activated, the behavior in the children. Needless to say, it was an uphill battle because that was not the finding that was expected. And so the interventions then had to be completely different on the way that I was addressing with the teachers. I stayed in education, working in that psychology capacity, but being a general ed teacher after they decided that the manual needed to be implemented. And then it became like the Black and brown children that would come to my classroom didn't have the same behavior issues. And so after being in education and like having all of this exhausting work, because it's really, really devastating when you're presenting information and you're having facts and you're having evidence. I did that for 12 years, and the results keep getting denied. Then the pandemic hit, and two of my professors from back home reached out, and they were like, you had so much work done on the importance and the trauma of change, just any change, getting pregnant, losing a cat, moving homes, like anything. And my professor said, I didn't even understood the whole time what your idea was. But I think we need you, and we would like you to start helping us with some of the patients. And because of the pandemic and because of Zoom, I started helping some of my professors with their caseload. And so the little, need to continue doing that work drove me to start asking more lawyers, because everybody told me, if you don't get your master's and if you don't get all of the certifications, you can never practice. Several times. And so I found a lawyer in Austin, and she told me, well, you cannot say that you're a licensed psychologist or a licensed clinical social worker, but you can open your own business or an LLC as a therapist. And so it was that, like finding the loophole of like utilizing my knowledge, my training, my university. I'm very proud to be from ITESO. It's a Jesuit university in Guadalajara. At the moment, had all the best certifications on training psychologists. So being able to get back into utilizing the degree with the Black and brown children in my schools and with the families and with people all over. After I launched my page, people from Michigan and Kentucky and Oregon were reaching out because they don't find people that can speak Spanish or that understand the culture. Like I said, I moved here when I was 27, so being born and raised in Mexico, the understanding of multiculturalism, it's a true fact. Like you unless you're born and raised and like, or you have families that are raising you in that type of culture, the expectations of family and the responsibility with God, like all of these things being Mexico, this I think is the second or the third strongest Catholic country still in the world. So I decided to do that. So I started my own LLC, and I just finished my training as an EMDR therapist. So right now I'm just doing the, thank you. I am doing the hours to be able to present my, I guess like your packet of all your hours and your training and everything to the EMDR Association in Austin, so that I can become an international EMDR therapist.
So we've heard a little bit about kind of the immigrant community, some other ways that we can find, we have lots of people in the country who have abilities, but all these barriers to being able to use their training and their skills. So how do we figure that out? And there was somebody here, I thought, from the community college. They have a new program where they're reviewing some of people's training in other countries and figuring out how that can be translated into helping them get the certifications and the training that they need here. So that's a new thing that they're doing over at MCC and something important to look into. And I want to kind of turn it back around to our more needed, vulnerable communities and kind of what resources they have. And I'm fortunate that I work at Waco Family Medicine, and we do a lot in mental health. And I'm so lucky that one of our very favorite people is here. So tell us who you are and what you do.
So I'm Jackie Orler. I look like a gringa, but I'm actually half Mexican. My dad is from Mexico, and so he was a first generation over here. But I work, stand up, okay. So I work with Dr. Newman. I do a couple things in our clinic. I do integrated behavioral health. So when people come in to see the providers, I will meet with them and just talk to them if maybe they're coming for diabetes, and they also mention that they're feeling depressed, and so I'll come in and do kind of brief counseling with them as they are seeing the providers as well. And being the only bilingual therapist there, I also do counseling part-time. But with such a huge need, it's just not enough. And so I do a couple half days doing counseling, and I'll see kids, I'll see older adults, I'll see families. I try to stay away from couples because I just don't do good with that. But I think part of what we're trying to do, I know that you mentioned doing like a pipeline. So we actually have a program for LMSWs that we started a couple years ago to try to create a pipeline for more people to become clinical social workers. And so we're piloting that, and I think there's just still such a huge need that there's just not enough. But I'm thankful to do the work alongside Dr. Newman, and hopefully I think just on a population level with doing integrated behavioral health, we're touching more people than we usually would. So it's great.
So part of what you do, Jackie, is you see the intersection very much between physical health and mental health. And a lot of what we do also, lots of domestic violence, and how that interacts with immigration status is huge, and how that impacts children is huge. And so we see that a lot in our groups. We do, sometimes you come into my Centering Pregnancy group prenatal care, and we have a whole session on mood. And it is not surprising how many times domestic violence comes up. and the feeling, the sense of being trapped. And I think you met with one of my patients yesterday. And then you take care of lots of kids as well, which is again one of the resources that we have very little of. So ADHD and behavior and all those other things as well. Lots of depression, lots of anxiety in our children, and you all see it a lot. And that's actually another resource that you did not mention, Dr. McDermott, in terms of telehealth. So all bad things have their silver linings, and the pandemic, one of the silver linings is that some of the barriers to telehealth have been brought down. And so Waco Family Medicine is in a partnership with Transformation in Waco to make telehealth more accessible, so kids can be in school, can meet with their doctor on the screen. And so we can make sure we had so many missed appointments because mom has to leave work, pick up the kid, take the kid, wait in line, miss work. And so now the kid can just stay in school and we can take care of their needs and make sure that they get the medicines and the care that they need. So another great innovation. And the final thing that we do that's really helpful is we have the Waco Guide, which is online, so y'all can look at the Waco Guide online, which has kind of those of you who can prescribe like some of the basic ways, because again, there's just not enough of anything. There's not enough therapists, there's not enough people that can prescribe medication and do everything else. I want to take advantage of one more person that I know who has struggled a lot. We talked about how many barriers there are to how huge the need is. And even though we have a huge need, we have so many barriers to getting trained, even for people who want to do it. So this, I'm gonna let this wonderful lady talk for a moment about her experiences. Veronica.
Hello, my name is Veronica Gaitan, and I am an LPC associate, and I work at Get Out of Your Head Therapy. And yeah, as Dr. Newman said, I've been struggling a lot since I came here. I came here when I was 18 years old, and I came as an immigrant as well. I didn't speak any English at the time. And then it was really, really hard for me because I couldn't communicate, right? And then I had the privilege of working on a Latino radio station. And when I was working there, because I was on the broadcasting field, right? Or the maybe I want to be famous or something like that. But when I was working there, I realized the need for Spanish speakers counselors, because people were listening to me every single day, and they kind of make that connection to me. I didn't know him, but they were calling almost every day, so they were talking about their problems. They were talking about, I don't know, traumas. So then I realized that, okay, they need a Spanish speaker counselor, so I decided to change my career. So I started on the psychology field, and I graduated from my bachelor's degree in 2015 and then my master's degree in 2020. So I am an LPC associate. So it was really hard for me because the immigration, not speaking English well, it was really, really rough. And then many times I feel like, why me, right? I wish I would have like all the resources as everybody else. But also I think this helped me to connect to people more. I got pregnant and then I got postpartum depression. Dr. Numa was there for me the entire time, and I was providing counseling the whole time. So I was upset because me as a counselor, I was depressed, right? I supposed to manage my emotions well, but I was depressed. So definitely the culture was there, present, right? Because we must be strong, and we must resolve our problems or manage our emotions well. If not, maybe you're not like a luchona, like in Mexico, right? So I was upset, but then I realized, okay, I can use this to connect to my clients. So every time a client come to my sessions, they feel shame for being here. I can see their faces, and the first thing that I will say, I want to validate your effort because I know that it's hard for you to be here. So I understand that you maybe think a lot before requesting the services. So I really want to validate your effort for being here. So I think it's the very first thing that I would do when I notice that they feel really ashamed for seeking the treatment. And I can notice how they, okay, yeah, it's okay. And I think the best thing for me is when they can tell me, okay, I was waiting for our session, right? Because they can feel the connection, they can feel that it's okay to receive the help. And also I will kind of challenge a little bit their stuck points, right? As a culture. Like I say, we believe that in order for us to be strong, we need to do everything ourselves. But also I kind of switch a little bit the definition of being strong. And I will tell them, okay, maybe you didn't want to come and you are doing something that you wanted to do. So you are here. So also that's being strong. And I will tell them as well, when they feel, I don't know, like ashamed, I will say, okay, like if you have like a heart disease, what are you gonna do? They will say, I'll go to the doctor, maybe it's Dr. Newman, right? Or like if you have like a liver disease, what are you gonna do? Okay, I'm gonna go to the doctor. So what's different? Like if you have something going on in your brain, like there is some imbalance there, what's different? And they'll say, okay, there is not difference. So it's okay to receive help. It's okay to receive medication. It's okay to be cared because you deserve that. So some of the things that I would do, I've been using my challenges to try to connect to people so they can come to me and they feel okay, they feel safe. And right now, I've been focusing on trauma because as Latinos, sometimes we tend to normalize our lives. Pregnancy, it's just one example, right? So it's really, really hard to become pregnant and then be pregnant and then labor and then having the baby. And we have this tendency to normalize that. And the reality is that pregnancy itself might be very traumatic. So I've been focusing on trauma, and I also received the basic training and I'm getting certified on EMDR. And also I provide CPT and TFCBT for kids. I see kids from 5 years old and teens and adults as well. And we are providing sliding scales as well for our community so they can pay as low as $25 a session so they can feel comfortable to come to us and they feel like, okay, my care is more important than money. So it's our goal. So thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. We have time for one more. Dr. Warren, can you tell us what you all are doing?
Thank you. At Waco ISD, one of the things that we've done this year that we had been waiting for was a partnership with another local healthcare facility, and I won't dishonor the folks that are in the room, but with another healthcare partner, we have created a licensed professional counseling practice for our staff members. And so we've essentially set up a private practice within our school district. And he is available to see our staff members. We have set him up in a spot on one of our campuses that is confidential and private. There's also a way for our staff members to see him virtually. And he's been getting out recently to make sure that he is more than just a QR code, that folks can see his face and know who he is and know that he's there for them. And the use of his services is increasing, which is encouraging because we know that in order for our teachers to do the demanding work that we're asking them to do, we need them to be well, and we need them to be well in the fullness of what wellness means. So we are very excited that that partnership has happened and that the use of his services are increasing. We also have a case management service that we've been using called Care Solace, and that too allows our families and our staff members and their families to be assisted through the process of finding care. So all of those hurdles that exist from the moment where you recognize that help is needed to when you actually get the care that you need, CareSol is helping us assist our families and our staff members in getting through those conversations. And those services are available in Spanish and other languages as well. So this is another way for us not necessarily to provide that direct service, but to make sure that we connect you to those services, because we want everyone in our system to know that it's not just about the one thing that we're focused on, but in order to accomplish that one thing, which is high academic achievement, we have to make sure that you are safe and healthy and focused. And so we are working with them as well, and then we are also partnering with some school districts in the North Texas area actually to expand our network and get access to some of the innovative programs that they're doing. And it helps just to be in the room with other people who are coming at this particular issue from that same vantage point and understanding the kinds of difficulties there are that we didn't realize at the time that we set up Program A that it was going to create a barrier to really allowing our students to succeed. So we are constantly open to exploring those kinds of partnerships and learning from each other, and just making sure that we are creative and inclusive and broad-minded when we're looking for specialists. And then there's one other resource that I want to talk about that we have been able to use some of those emergency funds that the federal government gave us as a result of COVID learning loss to help our staff members pay attention to their students in a way that they may have before, but they haven't followed up on before. And so one of the things that was mentioned is that more often than not, challenging behaviors are the results of the adults in the room and not the children in the room. And one of the really important capacity builders that we have for us is a threat assessment specialist, Kayla Sotomayor, who joined us a little over a year or so ago, almost 2 years ago. And she is developing our staff members' ability to look critically at their students way before there's a problem. And the looking at them critically doesn't mean in a negative way, but it's that spidey sense that all teachers have. We know when something's not quite right with our students. We may not always be able to articulate exactly what that is, but we know when something's not right, or when students aren't showing up to class in the way that they have been before. And there's a way for us to start paying attention to them, to start asking those questions, to remind them that we see all of what they present to us and that we're interested in the whole of them, and to make sure that we intervene way before we get to a crisis point. And so Kayla is just one of the human resources that we've been able to deploy to really ensure that we're creating a full service network of support for our students.
Thank you so much. I'd like to hand the mic over to our sponsor, Charles Williams.
Well, good afternoon. First off, I apologize for my limping. You know, I think back to when my brother here, Hector, first reached out to me about having this meeting, and I was like, of course. My name is Charles Williams, and I am honored to serve as the president for Better Scott and White here in the Waco market. January will be 2 years. You know, as I stand here, I think about a word that I heard from a gentleman one time. He wrote a book about the truths of life, and he said, you know, a kind gesture can reach wounds that only compassion can heal. And having you here today, to me, is that kind gesture, because we need you here. You don't know my compassion if we don't have a relationship. Amen. And as Hector and others will tell you, one of the first questions I asked when I got here is I said, let's talk about community. And what did I say? I said, what is our connection with our Hispanic leaders in our community? I won't go into the answer. But I want you to know that it is important to me that we here at Baylor Scott and White have a connection with everyone. I stand before you as a first person in my family to have stepped foot on a college campus.
Amen.
Coming out of the east side of Fort Worth, where I had many people tell me that I wouldn't even graduate, that I would be in prison, that I was nothing, and I couldn't do anything. But I believe that if we love on one another, see, we live in a polarized society where we've allowed our differences to become dislike, and it has caused discord, and we hate. But guess what? Let's take the beauty of our diversity in this room, lay down a foundation so that we can innovate and we can build up this community. So our commitment to you is not just today. We want a relationship. I mean that. I'm very serious. My team, we want a relationship. We want to serve you. And by the way, if you're interested in that Hispanic Advisory Council that we've developed, I'm looking for members because I want to hear from you. We host a lunch. I want to know, how can we serve you better? When you come in my ED, if we're not, I need to know. What I say to my staff, and I will sit down, and I mean this. I meet with every new employee here in Culture Day. And one of the things I say to every employee, I ask them, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing this weekend? And if I get various answers, that's great. I said, but somebody right now is having the worst day of their life. And they need you on point. When you walk on the 4th floor, please do not tell me you're going to patient 1405 or the CVA or the COPD. You are talking about a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a son, or a daughter with a past, living in the present with the desire to have a future. So know that we love you. And for all of you that are working through something, one of the things that kept me strong, and I will just share this with you, be you religious or not, there's a good word that talks about, yea, though I walk through the valley of death. And I'm going to stop right there. The beauty of that word is it says, I walk through. It never said stand, sit, or lie down. As we know, in every valley, there's nourishment. That's why the vineyards are so plentiful. Take what you can out of that valley so that when you get back to that mountaintop, that you can be strong and you can serve and you can do and you can grow and you can share. So know that we're here for you. We love you, we thank you, and I hope this is not the last.
Mr. Williams, thank you so much for having us. And I think I got out of order. Somebody else was supposed to introduce you. Do you want us to say a few words? Don't give me a microphone.
I've had the pleasure of being part of the advisory board here, and the food is delicious. So thank you again, Dr. Newman, for bringing such an important topic and discussion about demystifying mental health issues in our Hispanic community. I could relate to a lot of the topics that you were talking about, just with my own family. So let's give Dr. Newman and all the others that participated a round of applause. So now for the HLN announcements and news. The Hispanic Leaders Network is seeking support to continue the work we do. Please consider giving to 100% or 100 to 100. Our goal is to raise $10,000 by the end of this year. We ask you to consider making a donation of $100. Upon receiving your generous donation, you will receive a thank you letter for your charitable donation. Your name and or organization will be listed on the HLN's website and social media accounts. You can also visit the HLN website at www.hln-waco.org and click the image on the homepage. HLN also wants to help promote the University High School's annual Make-A-Wish Come True Christmas Giving Project, which is under the direction of the high school soccer and ROTC programs. This is the 14th year of Make-A-Wish Come True and has since through generous support from the community helped 1,000 wishes come through for students of local elementary, middle, and high schools located in South Waco. If you or your company is interested in sponsoring a child, please contact First Sergeant Montelongo at University High School. Now for upcoming events, HLN's next monthly event, Conectar-Connect, will be held on December 2nd, 2022 at Brook Avenue Elementary. The title of this event is They Said It Couldn't Be Done, Yet I Am Here. Mrs. Lorena Ferrales, principal at Brook Avenue Elementary, will share her journey to becoming a successful principal in our community. Can't wait. HLN will be hosting Las Posadas and Tamale competition on Saturday, December 10th at University High School. Mariachi Azteca will be performing at this celebration as well. So come take part in the fun festivals. This is a free community event.